Queen Serelith stood on the highest balcony of the royal spire, her silver crown glowing in the soft light of Aelari Prime's twin suns. She had faced hostile warlords, survived political traps, and commanded fleets that stretched across 5-star systems. Yet this moment felt strange even for her. Today, she was preparing for a diplomatic marriage, something that would join her empire with the distant worlds of Earth. The union was meant to bring peace after old misunderstandings, but she expected something complicated, maybe even dangerous. The Aelari people were proud, tall, and sharp in both mind and appearance. Their nobles were trained from childhood to hide emotions and speak with calculated elegance. Their generals were raised with discipline and strength. Humans, on the other hand, were known only through scattered reports, strange, unpredictable, creative, and very emotional. Some Aelari dismissed humans as physically weak, others admired their stubborn spirit. But Serelith, as queen, had tried to remain neutral. Still, she imagined Earth would send her someone bold or fierce, maybe a loud soldier who wanted to look strong. That was what she expected when she finally agreed to a political marriage. But when she saw the diplomatic files, the name surprised her. Evan Hale. A quiet man. A simple man. A man with no dramatic history, no famous battles, no heroic titles. A man whose record described him as polite, calm, peaceful, and modest. Serelith almost thought it was a mistake. When she mentioned it to the royal council, they reacted with amusement. Many nobles smirked, whispering behind their crystal masks. Some said the queen chose a harmless partner. Others said humans had no real fighters, and this was the best Earth could send. Serelith ignored them, but even she wondered what type of man would arrive. The day Evan Hale reached Aelari Prime, the entire palace gathered to witness it. Giant wings of light unfolded above the landing pad as the Earth shuttle descended. Human ships were small compared to Aelari cruisers, but this one was polished, clean, and carried a peaceful flag. Serelith stood calmly with her attendants. The shuttle ramp lowered. Evan stepped out. He was shorter than the Aelari, wearing a simple dark suit with clean lines. His hair was black, his expression soft and polite. He looked around with a quiet curiosity, not fear. When his eyes met the queen, he gave a respectful smile and bowed lightly. No dramatic gesture, no attempt to appear powerful. Just calm respect, the court whispered immediately. Is this truly a royal partner? He looks so gentle. Humans are fragile. The queen should be careful not to break him. Serelith felt irritation rise, but Evan did not seem bothered. When he reached her, he bowed once more. Your Majesty, he said softly, thank you for welcoming me. His voice carried warmth without arrogance. If he was nervous, he hid it well. You are welcome, Evan Hale, Serelith replied with the dignity of a queen. We accept this union as a bridge between two worlds. He nodded with the same modest smile. I hope I can be worthy of that. Serelith watched him carefully. She expected him to boast or try to impress the court. Instead, he simply walked beside her as they entered the palace. He did not stare at the towering architecture or glowing floors. He did not act superior or insecure. He simply observed everything with quiet interest. During the reception, nobles tested him with difficult questions. Some asked about human history. Others tried to corner him in political debates. Evan responded with patience and simplicity. He never raised his voice. He never tried to show dominance. He answered thoughtfully, but never pretended to know everything. Most Aelari nobles found him strange. He is too soft. He lacks ambition. But Serelith, who was trained to read every detail of a person, saw something else. His modesty was not weakness. His calmness was controlled, deliberate. He listened more than he spoke. He watched the room with careful awareness, not fear. It was subtle, but the Queen noticed it, and yet she did not understand him. That night after the reception, Evan walked with her through the royal gardens. Soft blue plants glowed like stars around them. "Your people are beautiful," Evan said quietly. "Your world feels alive." Sarilith raised a brow. "And what do you think of this arrangement? You came willingly." He nodded. "Peace matters. If this alliance prevents future conflict, then it is meaningful." "You speak like a diplomat," she said. He smiled. "Only when I have to." That answer made her pause. There was something hidden behind those words, but she could not guess what. Over the next few days, Sarilith learned that Evan woke early, read quietly, and spoke with workers as if they were equals. He thanked the guards. He asked questions about Aelari culture instead of judging it. He moved through the palace like a gentle breeze, leaving people surprised or confused. The royal soldiers found him harmless. The council found him dull. Some whispered that the Queen had accepted a partner with no strength. Sarilith said nothing, but she wondered silently who Evan Hale truly was. A man completely without ambition? A man who chose peace over pride? Or someone hiding a deeper side? Her question began forming when tension suddenly rose in the nearby star systems. An emergency message arrived from the outer borders. The generals rushed into the War Council chamber. Sarilith followed, expecting a standard report. Evan walked in quietly behind her, even though no one invited him. The council looked at him with annoyance. "Why is the human here?" one whispered. "He will not understand this," another said. Sarilith allowed him to stay, curious how he would react. Admiral Rith placed a holographic map on the center table. Red lights flickered along the border. "A distress signal," he explained. "From our scouting vessels. They detected something. A fleet of unknown origin, large, heavily armed." "Pirates?" the council asked. "No," Rith replied. "Something stronger." Sarilith frowned. "Possible identity?" "Unknown, but the scouts called them Vorkar before communication ended." A tense silence filled the room. The Vorkar were rumored to be a warrior species that conquered entire planets. No confirmed encounter existed, but stories were old and dangerous. The Queen asked for options. Generals argued. Some wanted to send the fleet, others wanted to protect the capital. The room filled with noise. Evan listened silently from the corner. His eyes scanned the hologram, absorbing every detail. His expression changed, not fear, not worry, but calculation. For a long time, he said nothing. Then, when the council reached no conclusion, Evan stepped closer to the map. His movement was slow and respectful, but confident. He studied the blinking red signals again. Sarilith watched him with curiosity. The council watched him with irritation. Finally, Evan spoke. "Your Majesty, I think this problem is coming for you." Everyone turned toward him. The generals looked offended. "Human, this is not your concern." "You lack military experience?" another said sharply. Evan ignored their tone and pointed at the signals. His voice stayed calm. "The attack pattern here, and here, it's not random. They didn't destroy the scouts. They marked them. Someone wants you to know they're coming. And they want you to be afraid." The room fell silent. Sarilith examined the map again. His explanation made sense, too much sense. "You are certain?" she asked. Evan looked at her with steady eyes. "Yes. They won't hit your borders. They'll strike deeper, straight toward the throne." "And how do you know this?" a noble demanded. Evan lowered his eyes. "Because this strategy is familiar." "Familiar to who?" the admiral asked. Evan hesitated for a moment, but then answered softly, "To me." Sarilith felt something shift. It was like a moment of truth had opened, showing a hint of something she had not seen before. The council began murmuring again. He is guessing. A human cannot know warfare like this. But Sarilith raised her hand. Everyone fell silent instantly. She looked only at Evan. You speak as if you have walked these paths before. I have, Evan replied, but I prefer not to. What are you hiding? Sarilith asked gently. He met her gaze without fear. Not a secret, just a past. I have seen what war does. I retired so I would never have to watch people suffer again. And now? Evan inhaled slowly. Now it seems war is coming to your home. For the first time, something sharp flashed in his eyes. Determination, focus, a fire he had been keeping buried. Sarilith felt the shift deep within her. This was not a simple or harmless man. This was someone who had lived through something dark and powerful, someone who carried heavy experience quietly, like a man afraid of his own strength. The council did not notice it, but the Queen did. The final message from the border arrived at the end of the meeting. A shaken transmission, the last words of the scouts. They are coming for the Queen. The hologram flickered out. The council panicked. Nobles argued. Generals scrambled, but Evan stood completely still. Sarilith looked at him carefully. He looked back. Neither spoke, yet a silent understanding formed between them. Whatever Evan Hale truly was, whatever past he carried, he was no ordinary human. And the danger approaching her throne was something he understood far better than anyone else in the room. Part 1 ends as Evan says quietly to the Queen, "If this threat reaches your world, I will not stand aside." The palace atmosphere changed completely after the message from the border. Every hallway felt tense. Every guard moved faster. Every council member whispered warnings about the unknown threat. The name Vorkar began spreading across the capital like a silent storm. Queen Sarilith walked through the Royal Command Center with her long cloak flowing behind her. Generals, officers, and intelligence workers stood at attention as she entered. Even with her calm face, everyone could sense her concern. She was a ruler who rarely feared anything, yet this situation felt different. The borders had never fallen so quickly. The scouts had never spoken with such terror. Evan Hale walked beside her quietly. No one wanted him there, but Sarilith didn't send him away. Something about his earlier words stayed in her mind. He had spoken with a certainty no one else had. The Admiral opened a new hologram, showing the moving patterns of red dots, enemy ships. They were advancing deeper, faster than anyone expected. The Vorkar fleet has crossed 2 sectors in less than a day, the Admiral reported. We must prepare the capital defenses. A noble stepped forward. And the human should be taken to safety. His presence is unnecessary. Evan didn't react. He stood with his hands behind his back, watching the map with quiet focus. Sarilith turned to him. Evan, perhaps you should remain in the secure chambers. This situation could grow dangerous. Evan gave a small nod. I understand your concern, Your Majesty, but I won't hide. The council exchanged uncomfortable looks. You are a guest, one general said. Not a soldier. I know, Evan replied softly. But I can help. Everyone stared. Sarilith studied him carefully. There was no fear in his expression, only determination. We cannot risk your life, she said. Evan looked at her calmly. My life is mine to risk. Before she could answer, an officer rushed in with a new report. Your Majesty, a border outpost has been hit. It's chaos. The fleet there is requesting orders. Their commander is injured. They don't know how to respond. Sarilith moved toward the screens. Connect the outpost immediately. The hologram flickered, revealing a smoking command room. Officers shouted behind the camera. Sparks burst from shattered wires. A captain with blood on his face tried to steady himself. Your Majesty, he said with a shaky voice, we cannot hold this line. Their ships are too fast. Their weapons... The transmission cut off. Sarilith clenched her jaw. Her generals began talking over one another, suggesting conflicting strategies. Retreat! No! Reinforce! Shield the capital! Orders clashed. Nothing was clear. The tension in the command room rose so fast that some officers froze. If the capital made the wrong move, the whole empire could fall. Evan stepped forward slowly. "May I see the full tactical feed?" he asked. The generals stared at him in disbelief. "This is not a human situation," someone announced. "He has no right to—" Sarilith raised her hand, quieting them. "Show him." The room hesitated, but obeyed. Multiple holographic screens lit up. Fleet positions, enemy attack routes, energy readings, and communication lines. Evan walked toward them calmly, his eyes scanning every detail. Sarilith watched him closely. He stood very still, but something changed in his face. The quiet man she knew was gone. In his place was someone sharper, someone trained. His eyes narrowed slightly, his breathing slowed. And his body relaxed in a way only experienced soldiers did on instinct. Evan lifted his hand and pointed at one of the screens. "There," he said. "The outpost isn't the real target. The Vorkar are using it to distract you. Look at how they split their formation. They're drawing your fleet upward, away from the capital." The admiral frowned and examined the data. His expression turned pale. "He is right," the admiral whispered. "And here," Evan continued, pointing at another part of the map, "they're moving a smaller unit around the asteroid belt on the left flank. That path leads straight to your central communication array." Sarilith stepped closer. "Why would they attack that?" "To blind you," Evan answered. "Once communication is cut, they will strike the capital directly." Silence filled the room. Everyone realized Evan saw things none of them had noticed. He didn't guess. He understood. The admirals swallowed hard. "How do you know this?" Evan kept his eyes on the map. "Because the Vorkar are using the same strategy an old human war faction used centuries ago. It's crude, but effective." The Queen's heart tightened. "Evan, who were you before you became a diplomat?" He didn't answer immediately. His voice stayed low. "Someone who learned too much about war." Before she could push further, a loud alarm echoed in the room. "Enemy ships detected on the left flank," an officer shouted. "The human was correct." More alarms followed. "They're approaching the communication station. The defenders are requesting orders. We have no time." Without waiting for permission, Evan began calling out commands. "Divert half of your second fleet downward. Use the gravity fields here. Force the enemy into the asteroid zone. They'll slow down." The admiral blinked. "But that maneuver—" "Do it now," Evan said. Sarilith watched, stunned by the sudden authority in his voice. He wasn't shouting. He wasn't panicked. He simply spoke with certainty. The admiral hesitated only a second before following the order. Officers rushed to their consoles, transmitting the commands. The fleet began moving. "Next," Evan said, "tell the communication station to overload their outer shields. It will blind the enemy scanners." "That could damage the station," a technician yelled. "It will survive," Evan said calmly, "and it gives your fleet 5 more minutes." The moves were risky, but flawless. Within minutes, the situation began stabilizing. The left flank enemy ships slowed in the asteroid belt exactly as Evan predicted. The communication station held long enough for reinforcements to arrive. The outpost survivors were evacuated safely. The entire command center stared at the screens in disbelief. Evan had fixed what their generals could not. Sarilith looked at him with new eyes. This was not a gentle diplomat. This was a man who carried battlefield memory deeper than any Alari commander present. Evan turned to her with a small sigh. "This is only the beginning. The Vorkar are testing you." "What will they do next?" she asked. "They'll send a message. he said quietly. Something meant to break your spirit. As if summoned by his words, a sharp beep echoed. A new incoming transmission flashed across the screens. The signal was strong, deliberate. "Put it through," Sarilith ordered. The hologram formed. A tall, armored figure appeared, wearing heavy plating and strange markings. His eyes burned with a merciless yellow glow. His voice was deep and cold. "Queen of the Aelari," he said, "we have watched your empire for years. Weak, soft, fragile." The command center stiffened. "You hide behind diplomacy, but we have come to show you truth. Your borders will fall. Your fleets will burn. Your throne will be taken." Sarilith held her gaze firm. "You will find Aelari Prime ready." The Vorkar leader laughed, a sound like metal scraping against stone. "Your time is ending." Evan stepped forward slightly. The Vorkar noticed him. "And what is this?" the alien commander growled. "A small human? This is your protector?" Many Aelari officers winced at the insult. Evan didn't react at all. The Vorkar leaned closer to the screen. "I will enjoy crushing your world, and I will tear down your palace stone by stone." The signal cut. The room erupted into panic. "They know the palace location. They want the queen dead. We must evacuate." Evan looked at Sarilith and spoke with calm certainty. "They are coming for you, and the attack will be fast." Sarilith met his eyes. "How fast?" "Hours," Evan said. "Maybe less." The council erupted again. Sarilith knew she needed to make a decision. She turned to Evan. "What do you suggest?" Everyone expected him to freeze, to hesitate, to act like the quiet man they assumed he was. Instead, Evan spoke with the steady strength of someone who had led men through fire. "You must move your forces differently. Your fleet thinks like Aelari. The Vorkar think like predators. You have to change your mindset, or you'll lose before you fight." Sarilith listened carefully. Evan continued, his tone steady. "Let me help you plan. You don't have to put me on the battlefield. Just let me stand beside you in the command room." The council objected loudly, but Sarilith raised her hand. The room fell silent. She walked closer to Evan. His calm eyes met hers. "You said you retired from war," she said softly. "Why step into it again?" "Because someone must," Evan answered, "and because danger is coming for you. I won't step aside and let that happen." Something inside her chest tightened. Not fear, but a strange sense of trust. She nodded slowly. "Very well," she said. "You will help." The council gasped. Evan bowed respectfully. "Thank you, Your Majesty." Alarms rang again as new enemy signals appeared. The Vorkar were closing in. Sarilith stood at the center of the command room, her presence strong. Evan stood at her right side. For the first time since he arrived, the palace saw a glimpse of who Evan Hale truly was. Not a simple human, not a harmless diplomat. Something else, something the Queen was only beginning to understand. The danger grew closer, and Evan's eyes grew sharper. The palace shook with distant tremors as the Vorkar fleet drew nearer. In the command center, lights flashed red across every console. Officers worked with shaking hands. Generals barked urgent orders. The atmosphere felt heavy, like the calm before a violent storm. Queen Sarilith stood in the center of the room, tall and composed, though her heart carried the weight of an entire empire. Evan Hale stood beside her, silent but alert. His quiet presence somehow grounded the room. Even those who doubted him earlier now looked toward him with a mixture of fear and expectation. Reports continued to come in. "Enemy ship spotted in the outer rings. They're breaking formation, trying to flank us. The capital shield is charging, but we need more power." Evan moved forward, studying the shifting hologram of the battlefield. His eyes scanned the information with practiced speed. Sarilith watched him, trying to understand what shaped this man. His face was calm, but not cold. His mind worked like a sharpened blade. "They're pushing your forces into the wrong zone," Evan said. "If your fleet stays on this trajectory, they'll be caught in a trap." The admiral frowned. "A trap? How?" Evan pointed at the map. "Here, enemy ships are faking a retreat, but their real assault is forming behind that asteroid cluster." Several generals leaned in, shocked. "But we saw no movement from behind the cluster," one argued. "They are using shadow zones," Evan replied softly. "A trick used in old human wars. They hide their engine heat inside the asteroid belt so your sensors miss it." The admiral checked the readings again. His eyes widened. "He's right. There are faint distortions." Sarilith felt a quiet chill. How many wars had Evan seen to recognize such details this quickly? "Divert the third fleet," she ordered. "Cut off that hidden flank." The officers obeyed. As they began repositioning the fleets, a sudden explosion crackled through the speakers. "Enemy fighter waves approaching the surface," an officer shouted. Sarilith stiffened. "They're moving too fast." Evan's expression darkened. "They're coming for the palace." Panic filled the command center again. "Bring the Queen to shelter. Evacuate the upper levels. Protect the crown." Sarilith raised her voice. "I will not leave this room." The council protested loudly, but she stood firm. Her people were fighting outside. She would not run. Evan stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she heard. "They will try to strike the throne room or the command center. They want you isolated." Sarilith nodded once. "Then we will not allow them." At that moment, the screens lit up with new warnings. "Multiple transport signatures detected," an officer called out. "Enemies attempting ground landing." The hologram zoomed in on the capital. Black dropships descended through the clouds, heading straight for the palace. Sarilith's soldiers scrambled to prepare. Evan watched the descending ships with sharp focus. "Their dropships carry heavy infantry. Your guards need to change their formation." "How do you know their tactics?" a general demanded. Evan didn't look away from the display. "Because I've fought soldiers like them before." Before anyone could ask more, the palace shook violently. Dust fell from the ceiling. Lights flickered. The Vorkar had reached the outer defenses. Alarms howled. "Shields at 70%! Floor units engaging the enemy! Breaches detected in the North Tower!" Sarilith gripped the command table, her voice steady. "We must hold them." Evan pointed to a cluster of guards preparing to move. "Tell them not to meet the enemy in the narrow hallway. They will be overwhelmed." The admiral shouted to his team, relaying orders. "Reroute those soldiers. Form them in the open courtyard." Sarilith found herself relying on Evan more with every passing breath. His insight was precise. His tone carried no self-importance. He simply knew. Another alert appeared. "Your Majesty, the Vorkar leader is transmitting again." "Put him through," Sarilith ordered. The hologram flickered on. The Vorkar warlord appeared, his armor blood-red under shifting light. This time, smoke filled the air behind him, sign of recent battle. "I see your palace still stands," he growled. "Impressive, but your defenses are failing." Sarilith lifted her chin. "You underestimate my people." The warlord laughed darkly. "You cling to hope. It will break soon, just like your border worlds." Evan stepped closer into the projection's view. The warlord paused. "You again?" The alien leader snarled. "The fragile human hiding behind a queen." Evan's expression didn't change. His voice, when he spoke, remained calm. "If you want to win, you should stop underestimating your enemies." The warlord's eyes narrowed. "You speak boldly for someone who has never fought the Vorkar." "I've fought worse," Evan said quietly. The alien leader leaned forward. "You are nothing. I will crush your world. Then your queen will watch her people fall." Sarilith stepped nearer to Evan, her voice icy. "You will never touch my people." The warlord smiled cruelly. "We will see." The screen cut dark. Sarilith exhaled slowly, her anger controlled but sharp. Evan glanced at her. "They want you afraid," he said. "Do not give them that victory." She met his eyes. "I am not afraid." Evan gave a small nod. "Good." Another quake shook the room. An emergency alarm rang. "Enemy units have breached the outer palace gate. Defenders falling back. They're coming closer." The generals prepared to move troops inside. Sarilith shifted her stance. She had trained in combat since childhood. If the Vorkar reached her throne room, she would fight herself. But Evan placed a gentle but firm hand on her arm. "Your Majesty," he said softly, "you cannot be on the front line." "My people are dying," she replied. "And they fight because they believe you lead them," Evan said. "If they lose you, they lose everything." She hesitated. Not because she disagreed, but because he said it with a depth of sincerity she had not expected from someone who knew her so briefly. Before anything else could be said, a soldier ran in. "Your Majesty, the left courtyard is almost lost. They need reinforcements or they will fall." Evan instantly analyzed the hologram of the palace layout. "Send the palace guard through the west corridor," he instructed. "They will reach the courtyard faster." The general blinked. "That corridor is narrow, human." "That's why it will work," Evan replied. "The Vorkar armor is heavy. They will struggle to maneuver there." The general nodded, impressed despite himself. "Do as he says." Sarilith watched as her soldiers followed Evan's plan and successfully pushed back the enemy in the courtyard. His strategies turned near defeat into steady defense. Every move he made shaped the battle. The palace trembled again. "Outer shield collapsing! Enemies reaching the east wall! Your Majesty, we must move you to a deeper room." Sarilith refused to budge. "I stand with my people." Evan stepped beside her again, lowering his voice. "This tower may not hold much longer," he said. "If they breach it, you will be trapped." "You want me to run?" she asked. "No," he answered. "I want you to survive." Their eyes met. In that moment, Sarilith realized something. Evan wasn't simply protecting her because of an alliance. He cared, not as a diplomat, not as a strategist, but as a man who refused to let harm come to someone he respected. Another explosion rocked the tower. A section of the floor cracked. Evan grabbed Sarilith's arm and pulled her back before the ground split open. Dust filled the air. Officers shouted and covered their heads. The Queen steadied herself and looked at Evan. "You saved me." He shook his head softly. "Just doing what is right." Before she could respond, the alarm blared again. "Enemies have entered the inner gate." Sarilith's heart tightened. The inner gate was dangerously close to the command center. Evan's eyes narrowed with a sharp, familiar focus. Something inside him awakened, a part he had tried to bury for years. He turned to the Queen. "They're coming, and when they reach this room, I won't let them take you." Sarilith felt a strange warmth rise in her chest as he continued. "You asked what I was before I came here," Evan said. "I never wanted to bring that part of my life back. But for you, I will." The palace shook again, and Evan Hale stepped forward, not as a gentle diplomat, not as a quiet visitor, but as someone who had once been something very dangerous. The Vorkar were closing in, and for the first time, Sarilith understood. Evan was far more than a modest man. He was a storm waiting to be unleashed. The sun of Zarian rose slowly, spreading a soft golden light over the royal city. The towers glowed like molten metal, and the long crystal bridges shone as if they carried light inside them. The entire kingdom was awake, but there was a strange kind of silence in the air, a silence made from fear, hope, and expectation mixed together. Everyone had heard what happened on the border. Everyone had heard the stories about the human king who fought like a quiet storm. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some said he moved with impossible speed. Some said he fought like an old god, and some said he only needed to speak, and the enemy felt fear in their bones. But Queen Saria knew the truth. She had seen him herself. She had watched him step into danger like it was nothing more than a short walk. She had seen him stop a battle with only his presence. And after the battle, after the danger passed, he had stood next to her with calm eyes, as if he had simply finished a normal day of work. Now she waited for him in the great hall. Leon walked into the hall with slow steps, but even his slow steps echoed confidence. He looked calm, but Saria could sense a different emotion behind his eyes, something deep, something heavy. He carried the weight of what happened. He carried the weight of what might happen next. "Leon," Saria said softly when he stood before her, "you returned." He offered a gentle smile. "Of course. I told you I would." Her chest loosened, but she kept her voice steady. "The enemy was stronger than we expected. Our people fear they will return. Some believe they will come with greater numbers, and some believe they will bring their strongest warriors." Leon nodded slowly. "They will come. Their commander is not someone who accepts defeat easily." He paused for a moment. "But we will be ready." Saria's eyes flickered with worry. "Leon, I must ask you something. Something I never asked before." She stepped a little closer. "Who are you really?" Leon looked around the hall, then back at her. For a moment, he seemed to search for the right words. "I am what I always told you, a human. A simple man who used to live quietly." "Then how did you fight like that?" she whispered. "How did you walk into danger like you felt no fear at all?" Leon touched the crystal railing beside him. "Where I come from, humans do not have powerful gifts. We are not born with energy abilities or special senses like your people. We have only our bodies and our determination. So humans learn to survive by pushing past fear, by training, by preparing for the worst. Some pushed much farther." Saria understood only part of what he said. She saw the calm look on his face and felt a strong mixture of pride and worry. She loved his quiet nature. She loved the softness he showed her, but she also admired the strength he hid. Before she could reply, one of the royal guards rushed into the hall. "Your Majesty! A message from the border gate!" Saria's heart tightened. "What message?" The guard swallowed. "The enemy has sent a representative, not an army. Only one ship. They request a meeting with King Leon." Saria immediately turned to Leon. His face did not show surprise, only acceptance. "It seems they want to talk," he said. "Talk?" she asked. "Or challenge?" Leon shrugged lightly. "Either can happen." Saria grabbed his hand. "Leon, I will not allow you to go alone." He smiled softly. "I know, and I don't want to." Moments later, both of them traveled to the border tower. When they arrived, they found a tall alien figure standing near the landing area. The alien's armor was dark silver, marked with symbols that seemed to pulse with an inner glow. He was the enemy commander. The alien bowed slightly when he saw Leon, but his eyes held the coldness of a warrior who had lost pride. "So you are the human," the commander said. His voice was deep and heavy. "The one who made my soldiers lose their courage." Leon's expression remained calm. "They chose fear. I simply encouraged honesty." Saria hid her surprise. She had never heard Leon speak with such quiet confidence. It was not arrogance. It was a simple truth spoken without emotion. The commander stepped closer. "I came for a simple reason. I came to know what you are." "A man," Leon repeated. "No," the commander said sharply. "A man does not face an army with only his body and win. A man does not look death in the eye and remain still." Leon looked at him without blinking. "Then maybe your understanding of humans is too small." The commander became silent. He studied Leon for several long moments. Then he spoke again, but this time his voice was different. It held the weight of respect. "We will not attack your kingdom again," he said. "Not while you live." He looked at Saria. "Your queen is fortunate." "Why?" Saria asked carefully. The alien looked at Leon. "Because she married a storm disguised as calm water." With that, he stepped back, entered his ship, and left without another word. The tower guards could not believe what they witnessed. Some whispered. Some stared in awe. Some bowed deeply to Leon as he walked past. Saria walked beside him without speaking until they reached a quiet pathway near the gardens. She stopped. "Leon, they fear you." Leon looked at her with soft eyes. "Do you?" She stepped closer. "No, but I think I finally understand you." He raised an eyebrow. "Understand what?" "You are gentle because you choose to be," she said. "You are calm because you know your strength. You do not show power because you do not need to prove anything." Leon slowly exhaled. "I didn't want a life of fighting. I wanted a life of peace." He looked at her warmly. "I wanted to build a future with you, not fight wars for you." "And yet you still protect me," she whispered. He nodded. "I promised you I would. A promise matters to humans, especially to me." A soft breeze moved through the garden. The crystal leaves rustled like tiny bells. Saria stepped close enough to place her forehead gently against his chest. "You are not just my husband," she said quietly. "You are my shield, my anchor, my strength. But you are also the gentle man I chose." Leon held her in his arms. "And you are the queen who gave me a home." They stood like that for a long time, wrapped in the soft sounds of the garden. Days passed. The kingdom slowly returned to normal. Trade routes opened again. Children played in the crystal streets. The fear that once filled the city faded. People looked at Leon with new respect. They bowed when he passed. They whispered stories about him. Stories filled with pride rather than fear. But Leon tried to live normally. He helped in small tasks around the palace. He listened to people's worries. He learned their customs. He became part of their world with quiet effort and gentle behavior. Yet everyone remembered one thing clearly. The alien queen believed she married a modest man. But she had discovered he was a guardian shaped by experience, a warrior shaped by purpose, and a human shaped by unbreakable resolve. And she loved him for all of it. One evening, as the sun set behind the glowing towers, Saria looked at Leon and smiled softly. "I once thought I married a quiet man," she said. Leon laughed gently. "And now?" "Now I know," she said, taking his hand. "I married the strongest man in the galaxy, who still prefers to hold my hand instead of a weapon." Leon leaned his forehead against hers. "Then I will keep choosing peace. For you. For us." And in the quiet golden light, they stood together, queen and king, warrior and gentle soul, partners of two worlds, ready to face whatever came next.